You think of all of the fantastic things Phil has done. The one thing you can say about Phil, he'll stand there and sign autographs. He's done all these fantastic good deeds for the LPGA, for the PGA, and for our fans. And he's done one stupid thing with this. Tiger refuses to sign autographs. He's not very nice to his fans. He doesn't even like his fans, to be honest. So what happens is they all play the big events together. I think it's a mistake. And Cantley was smart to do that. I would say I'd play the weaker fields, but all the weak players play on those ones and all the strong players play together. So it makes it harder to win.
Well, we're excited to have you here with us, that's for sure, because now that we finally got you started, it's going to be very hard for me to let you go. All right, we are finally ready to talk golf on Prime Sports Network. It's been a long time. It's been actually a couple of years since we've been able to talk golf, going back to our days when we were just a radio show on this network. It's been a long time coming, and finally we are going to talk golf starting this week and every week all throughout the PGA Tour season, which lasts all season and all year long now. So can't wait to do that and start it all with Jan Stephenson, Hall of Fame golfer, and someone that I have been an acquaintance of for many years, dating back to, I would say, a good, 25 years in South Florida, Jan?
At least. We started down there at Hard Rock. Remember on the radio show?
That's right.
You were the producer of that Chicks on Sports.
Oh, the Chicks on Sports show. Yeah, I can't even believe you remember that. I didn't even remember that one. Chicks on Sports. They wouldn't even allow such a name of a show now.
That was fun to do. Yeah, because that was when we even talked football. It was kind of fun because, I was a big Dolphin fan because I had a house in the Keys and I'd come up from the Keys and we'd chill out there by the pool. It was fun to do the show.
And time goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. But it finally gave you the opportunity last year to accept your invitation into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations.
And that was, you know how much that meant to me, but it's still, I just get goosebumps every time somebody says it, because it's like, that's what I always wanted and figured I wasn't going to get it. But, and actually it's coming up. Tiger's getting inducted and Susie Maxwell Burning and Dean Beeman. So it's going to be a really fun one coming up in a few weeks too.
So Tiger's going to get inducted in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that'll be a big deal. They've actually kept the audience down, I guess, because of Tiger.
That's incredible. So you're going to attend the first time as an actual member of the Hall.
Yeah, this is the first one since I was inducted, because they didn't have it they only have it every 2 years anyway. Okay. And they only induct every 2 years. And this one's fun because it's going to be during the TPC at Sawgrass. And the night before they get inducted, all of the past Hall of Fame that are still alive take the newbies out for dinner. So that's going to be really fun too.
Very cool. The memories are going to come shooting back, that's for sure. So, yeah. And we'll talk to you hopefully every week, especially in a couple of weeks on location. So that's going to be a cool way for us to also preview the players, but talk a little bit more about the Hall of Fame and wow, Tiger Woods into the Hall of Fame. I always find that kind of strange in some of the sporting events when someone gets inducted into their Hall of Fame and they're still playing or they're still coaching.
Yeah, exactly. It's rare that happens. They have to have been on tour for 10 years before they can do that. But his credentials, obviously, he earned it. But I'm going to be interesting to see what kind of mood he's in, because he's not a very sociable person unless he's with his close friends, but he's going to actually have to be nice. So we'll see.
Yeah, he seemed pretty upbeat. He did the interview over the weekend, I believe, for the Genesis. Yeah. So
yeah, he was hosting the Genesis after he tore their car up the year before.
Yeah. I just that's a huge story that we could always get into at some point. But that is, I'm just the type of person, because I'm not really too much into the whole what goes on in someone's personal life. If it doesn't affect me, everybody has flaws. As long as they don't do anything criminal to other people, then okay. I mean, say what you want, but he's a flawed human being. That's all he is, and he just happens to be the greatest golfer maybe that's ever played the game. But he's flawed.
That's true. It's a good way to put it, because he does have, he's definitely very human.
Yes, and that's going to be great. I think, and it's hopefully he'll stay healthy, because I think it's still great for the sport, even if he does only play a handful of times a year, or 10 times. But just him being around the sport is still great. Just like Phil being around the sport is great for the sport, even if he doesn't play at top of his game. Nobody thought he was going to win another major last year like he did, and it was so exciting when it happened, because we were going to actually do the show next week, and it was like, you know what, we shouldn't wait until next week, because this is such a big story, so we have to talk about it. But now everybody seems to be ganging up on Phil again, and I don't get why, when you hear comments from, say, Rory and other people who have come out and responded to Phil, why is it that they're, I don't know, what they're upset now. They think Phil's ignorant. His statements are ignorant, naive, and all the other things that they're saying. Well, but what do they mean? He's been saying this for a year and a half. So even though he didn't specifically say this specific comment, you know how he feels. So that's what confuses me, Jen. I don't understand where they're coming from.
Well, it's, the trouble is that, I mean, and I don't want to jump on the down on Phil bandwagon, because that I've been there. I know when I've made some comments and everybody jumped against me and accused me of being a racist, and my comment was taken out of context, and Phil keeps saying his was taken out also, but he did say those comments. So the thing that Phil has always complained about, and I understand as being one of those players, there's certain star players on the tour that everybody wants to see. So when you look at a tournament and the sponsors, you talk to the sponsors, they really, really want the big names, right? The people that have got color, whether they don't even necessarily have to be in the top 10 or the top 20. Sure. Like they do say that, oh, we've got 8 of the top 10 playing. But it's the personalities, the Jordans, and even Ricky, as poorly as he's played the last few years. And Phil is one of those people. So Phil's always been very vocal, according to what I've heard from the PGA, a lot of the PGA players, is that he doesn't consider the journeyman should not be treated the way the top players are, because nobody really cares about him that much on tour. When Tiger's not there, or one of the big names is not there, you can always tell a Tiger roar or a Phil roar when you're on the golf course, because people love them, because like you've talked about earlier, they are flawed, they are human, they have personality. And, a lot of the young players, because of the way the game is, they are, they're, the better they can not show their emotion, the better it is for their game, which again hurts the game of golf. That's why someone like, when you watch the Waste Management, they're all excited when they have that one hole and everybody's allowed to yell and scream. A lot of the players hate it and won't go to that tournament because of it. A lot of players like it. But Phil was always at the one, well, it's not fair that a regular event that the big names are not playing is equal in FedEx points or money to, say, a major that's always played at the same time. Like when you go for the Open Championship in Britain, they have a satellite tournament opposite in this country. Well, obviously it's weak, and then that person is equal money-wise and goes up on the money list. And Phil's always been vocal about that. A lot of the other players have hated that, but not the big names, obviously. Sure. So he's already gotten a lot of negative from the average PGA player, they're not average because they're fantastic Sure. golfers, but they're not the big names that everybody wants to see at tournaments and that bring the galleries and the media attention. So he's already had a lot of the players against him anyway. I've actually enjoyed Phil for that reason, that he does say his mind, and he is conflicted on what he's saying. he's really basically saying the PGA should be taking care of us more because we do so much. So they should be paying us, which now they have a program probably brought on because of what was happening with this new tour, international tour, that the Arabs are sponsoring, that now they have a bonus at the end for what they consider their star players. I mean, they just gave Tiger what a huge multi-million dollar bonus. So they're saying that's because of what you've done for the tour, because the PGA has a lot of money. They've built it up over TV contracts, because when you play an LPGA event, if the LPGA want to be on Golf Channel, their sponsors have to pay to be on Golf Channel. Yet a PGA event, the television pays the PGA, so it's dead reverse. Wow. So, and we've all complained about that, but that's the contract the LPGA did years ago, and it's one we have to, the LPGA inherited, and it's a horrible contract. But with the PGA, they make a ridiculous amount of money from television rights, just like all of the major sports do. But Phil's always said we should be getting a piece of that, just like when they play the Ryder Cup. Yes, they get bonuses from all their sponsors if they make it, but now they're finally getting that money put into their retirement plans. Okay. So at least they get something back in the end. But I understand Phil saying that, and I'm surprised he said that about the other tour, because I'm pretty sure he was getting ready to sign with them. So I think maybe that's what Roy was saying. He's ignorant because he was getting ready to get a huge fee from them. And then to say all those horrible things about him that he doesn't really know that that's what they've done.
Do you think?
So I'm surprised you said that. But the main thing I want to say is, you think of all of the fantastic things Phil has done. The one thing you can say about Phil, he'll stand there and sign autographs. He's done all these fantastic good deeds for the LPGA, for the PGA, and for our fans. And he's done one stupid thing with this, or maybe it's number 3, but it is. And so it can't. People just, all of the media get on him, and it's almost like it's eliminated all the good things he's done. Because you look at Tiger. Tiger refuses to sign autographs. He's not very nice to his fans. He doesn't even like his fans, to be honest. And yet Phil really goes out of his way. He acknowledges everybody that says something. I mean, I've seen Phil go from one green to the next, give his golf balls away, give anything away to kids, especially if they're in wheelchairs. And Tiger just won't do that unless there's the media around.
Well, do you think that has something to do with it, that Phil is kind of, he's a people's person?
So I don't know. I mean, Phil is one of those people that, it's kind of like me. He's very emotional. He's going to say what he thinks at the time, and then sits back and goes, oh, wait a minute. I really didn't mean it that way. Or this was really under the table, just kind of commenting on, that the PGA and the Arabs are two different things, but I feel sorry for Phil. I know what he's going through, because when everybody jumped on me, it just devastated me. I didn't even want to go back on tour. I mean, it took me months and months, and I had to talk to the past commissioner and ask what to do and what to say, and his advice was great. Get Savory Park and get her behind you, which I did. And when I came back on tour, all the Asians came up and gave me a hug, which was great. But at the time, it was horrifying when I had said, the Asians are great, and the question was, if I was commissioner, what I would do differently, being the fact that I just come back from Korea. And I said I would make the tour 50-50, 50 American, 50 international, because at the time we had all American sponsors. And I said, it's not really fair that they're coming over here and taking, college spots for American girls when it's American sponsors. And I said, and if we don't do that, Asians would kill the LPGA, because there wouldn't be any more Americans. And I was talking about Australians and all the Europeans as well at the time, because, when you think about it, we only had 50 million people, and we probably got 17 people at the time on the players on tour. So obviously it's a huge number. And then they called me being a racist because I wanted to stop them coming in. And yet when you go to the other countries, they only allow half a dozen Caucasians to play. So it was like, wait a minute, then they're really racist. And I'm not at all. I was just trying to help to make sure, because I could see this was going to happen because of the way they are so talented. But anyway, I understand. And Phil was the only one that wrote me a note and said, we've all been saying that, and you had the guts to say it. So I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say, Phil, you screwed up, even though he did. I understand why he did it. He said he swears that it was actually off. This was off the record and was not to be printed.
As far as you tell me, do you think that when it comes to what Phil has been saying all along regarding the PGA and the rights and that they own him, do you see where he's coming from? See, I see where he's coming from, even though I know how much money he's making, and it's almost like, well, why are you crying about the difference between making 100 million or 90 million? That's the way someone like me would think, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. But I understand his point. If what he says is true, that there are so many rights issues regarding likeness and so forth that they have all the control over, that maybe that is something that should be talked about. But I don't know. That's something that I don't know whether or not that is as big and prevalent within the PGA Tour as he seems to be indicating it is.
No, I actually agree with what you're saying. I think it's kind of like, you know, how when you go to a tournament, when you enter the tournament, whether it's a PGA or an LPGA event, because I'm a member of the PGA as well, so I'll play local events in the PGA. You have to sign your rights over every single time you sign up.
And what does that mean? Sign it. That means that what
all the pictures they take, they own. You don't get those.
So you can't use them to profit off of them.
You have to get permission from the PGA to use them, that they own every likeness, anything that happens when you're out there. So that's a right that, you know, may bug him. I mean, you know, there's been some pretty awesome photos that I've had to buy over the years that I've wanted from winning events, that you've got to buy them from the PGA of your own events, of your own pictures.
Yeah, that does seem a little.
So I mean, that's only a small issue, and I know what it's like. You know, and it's a long, long time ago, but the requests on my locker when I used to come in, and now with cell phones, I mean, even when I first started the Legends Tour, you get asked interview after interview and sit with the media. So when you might take, even when I played and I was, you know, in the top 10 in the world, I would have to sit for hours in the press room every single day. And he used to say, that's not fair. And it isn't, because the regular LPGA player that's not a big name can go straight to practice, go home, rest, or go to the trailer and get, you know, stretched and work out, where you actually are giving them an extra hour or two a day of your time. And then all of the requests they have of you, if you're a top name, it doesn't have to be the top golfer, it's the big names that everybody, you know, like we talked about. And there's actually was a name for it. I can't remember what the name was. And, you know, it's like a special player. Okay. And so it does wear on you. But the thing is, Phil had a pretty good attitude about it. I didn't think that it was, you know, I was the same way. I'd liked doing it. It's just that it was really tiring. And it does, after a while, you can't play as many in a row because of it. But that's probably the top. There's probably 15 on the PGA, maybe 20 that happens to, out of the 134 that are signed up every week. And so, or 33. And the same with the LPGA. They may not even be that many. There may be only 10 that everybody wants to talk to. We had probably about 20 when I was on tour, but it was really Nancy Lopez and I. And it's a lot of work. So maybe he's saying they should have been paid for those events.
Well, I will say, I think that there's no question from my point of view that the PGA Tour has done a great job of making sure that their tour players get paid a lot of money. As long as you make cuts and so forth, you're going to make, and especially if you're a top 25, top 35 player, you're going to make a good living. You don't even have to win more than once every 4 or 5 years, and you can still make a good living on the PGA Tour. That's how much money there is to go around. To me, as the fan, that's been a negative, because I think it holds back the competition to try and win more. That's just for me. I'm not the athlete that you are. The reason I say that is because I I see that, and I understand there's so much there's so many good players, like you said, on tour. I get that, but it just seems that the top players even just don't win as much. That it's almost like if they could, shouldn't they win more? They're so much better than like we've already seen this year. You know, Hudson Swafford won, and you know you get these guys that win, and you're like, how could they win? And so hasn't won in 3 years. Is that part? Do you think that's partly the reason? Do you think that if you had to win more to make more money, do you think we'd have more of these top players winning more?
No. I tell you what I think, and I think this is a mistake. What they do is, and I don't know whether it's because of the way the prize money works, but if you watch, and I've always said this, and Phil is actually one that doesn't do it like everybody else does, but they all play the big tournaments.
Yes.
You notice they had 10 out of 10 played last week at the Genesis in LA because they love Riviera and it's a spectacular place. They hate playing Pebble Beach because they got to play 3 different courses. It's iffy with the weather. They got to play with amateurs. They maybe get one of the top 15, and that was Cantley. So what happens is they all play the big events together. I think it's a mistake. And Cantley was smart to do that. I would say I'd play the weaker fields, but all the weak players play on those ones and all the strong players play together. So it makes it harder to win. And I always thought that was crazy. If I'd be like looking at the weakest fields and go, look, but a lot of them go by the golf course and the event. And, you know, and how well the family's treated. Like it used to be years ago, like they all like to play Hawaii because number one, they've won a tournament, and then to play the first one, then they may as well stay for the second one. And they take such great care of their family and kids and take them out on the beach and do all this stuff that they all like to play it. So a lot of it as they get old, it's like, oh my God, this is so great to go play. When we used to have a tournament in Orlando, they'd all go play Disney because they'd shut down Disney for them.
Cool.
And so it's so amazing how they're treated anyway out there to say that, you know, they should be getting extra. The top players should get because they do extra work. I don't know if what you're saying is right. I just think it just takes so much to make it. If you're in the top, to make it the 125, you got to be in the top 125. You've got to have made $1.5 million for the year. I think that's minimum. I think it might even be up to like 2 million now to make it into the last 30 as it goes and to make it into Atlanta. So that's a lot of money, sure. But you need a lot. There's a big, you know, even though it's a single sport, it's not really, it's a team sport. By the time you pay your agent, your manager, your caddy, your sports psych, the person that travels to train you, and now they're all spoiled because they all go private jet because you've got to haul all these people with them everywhere, not to mention their families with them. But so I don't know that they kind of need that. And once you've earned your way onto the tour, you should get something because you've worked your whole life.
Absolutely. Do you think there's, so you're saying is you really do think there's that much competition on tour now that it is what it is. It's just so hard to win because and I can see that when I look at all the old videos too of Tiger at his heyday. Part of the reason that made Tiger great, everybody knows how good Tiger is. I get that. But I look at the players that he went up against. Like, I'm sorry, but I would say that 90% of the players that Tiger went up against wouldn't be in the top 50 in the PGA Tour. You know, if they played today, I just think it's so much harder.
I agree with that. And I'll tell you why. Number one, we've got the new technology, so the equipment evens everybody out. Number two, you have video, so you don't have to beat balls and have everybody has a good golf swing now because you can fix it on you. I mean, I video my swing every day and look at it, talk to my coach about it. So I don't have to be out there beating balls all day long. So there's a very little difference between first and 60th. Very little. And anyone on the tour can win at any time. And you know what, over the years, when you look at certain players, and I'm probably going to get myself in trouble for saying this, there have been weaker eras, just like what you're saying with Tiger. I've seen it on the LPGA Tour when there's, you know, they may only have been when Lorena Ochoa was playing, it might have been only her and Curry and Annika. Yes. You know, there were only 3 really, really good players. And so everybody else was kind of way behind them. So that between the 3 of them, they used to win every week. And so people would go, oh my God. And so I want to say a little bit it's luck. Same thing would happen with Nicklaus. After Palmer, Nicklaus came on. And then, and Player was in the middle with those. And there were those three, the big three. Then there was a lull, and then Freddie came along. And then there wasn't much strength against Freddie because here he was until Davis Love came along, there was a gap. So when Tiger came, there was a big gap. And it's an excellent point that until you say that, I look back and go, wow, because there's certain areas where there wasn't a lot of superstars. Right now, anyone that's on the tour, I would say even almost on the LPGA Tour as well, anyone can win if they've got their card.
Yes. And
that's why these names you've never heard of are winning.
And it's very hard to handicap.
Superstars.
It's crazy hard to handicap.
I bet.
Because you don't know who's going to win.
It used to be in the old days. Yeah. But, like in tennis, you can always choose. You can figure out who's going to be in the finals, because of where they are and on their ratings. But on the PGA Tour, you can't do that. And LPGA the same way. There's so many good players, and telling you, it might be one shot that makes the difference on the first day. How many times do you see on PGA Tour now that they've missed 4 cuts in a row and go out and shoot 62 on the Thursday? And that as soon as you make that first putt, or they hear the interview and they go, I made a 12-footer to save par after I was 4 under. It made all the difference in the world. And then they go on and shoot low. Golf is I don't know how you do it, because I know you're really good at handicapping, but I wouldn't even want to, how do you do that even when they're in the last few groups?
It's gotten really hard. So what I try and do is, for instance, this is what I've had to, this is kind of information I've had to look up to try and help me. So this week at the Honda, I did this pre-event in research and found out that if you look, since they've been at PGA National, all 13 winners were in the top 7 after the second round. Okay, so that's a very interesting stat.
It is.
And if you also look at it after the third round, so when we get past Saturday this weekend, if you're not first or second, you're not winning. That's 13 years of PGA. So you could be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. You're not coming from behind at PGA National. It just doesn't happen. That's the kind of information that I've had to try and look up myself to because sometimes it's actually, it's a lot easier, of course, that you just let the tournament start almost, because it's almost impossible to handicap before the tournament begins, because you never know from week to week who's going to play well. So it's almost like, all right, let the tournament begin. You still get the odds. The odds come out after every round, and then look up stats like this, and that better helps you. So Daniel Berger, who's leading right now, I would say he's probably got I'd give him a 90% chance of winning this weekend based on these.
I wouldn't have said that, but I would say definitely over 70, because and especially the other thing that's a big factor is, when I played on tour and when you watch certain tournaments, everybody has their favorites, the horses for courses. There's golf courses that suit your eye. You love the design. It fits the way you play. It fits your shape of your shots. I know my old caddy now caddies for Kenny Harms, and he'll say, we know which tournaments we're not playing because he's not one of the longest hitters, but he's got a great short game. So they select which tournaments that they've got a chance of winning. And they go first on the list of what they're going to play. Whereas Berger's a long hitter, but he hits it. He's a pretty decent iron player, even though I don't care for his golf swing. He actually, has got he hits the ball long. But that course especially, the last few holes at that, the bear trap is so ridiculously hard with so much water on it that you can't afford to be off. And if there's, of course, Florida in March, you get wind. Or in February. And once you get the wind, you've got that factor as well. I always would pick, when it's windy, I always pick an Australian because they know how to play in the wind, because that's a really important factor. But then when you go to the Masters, it's the opposite. Now you've got all these birdie holes. You've got 13, 14, 15, and so those 3 holes, you can come from behind and take the, especially in the Masters, because it takes the pressure off. Because look at Danny Willett when he did it, when he won, and when Jordan blew it. and Danny had to only finish the last couple of holes with
Yep.
the lead, and he was still in there early. And so as long as you're in contention, but the bear trap is it's so hard to hold the lead there. I mean, it's hard to catch up space, that when you've got the lead, you can play defensively and it's not such a big deal, but you can't make up ground on those holes unless the leader screws up. But they're good enough players, they can keep it away from the trouble.
I'm actually kind of surprised that there isn't a bigger field at this event, because it's such a good and tough golf course. Especially after what we just went through. I mean, we know Riviera's tough, but some of those other events in California and Hawaii, they're just so easy right now.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of the top players don't play them. But you think about it, you got TPC coming up in 2 weeks, which is another major. It's the their fifth major. Everybody likes Bay Hill because it's a very difficult golf course and it's a one to warm up for them there. Some players like to take a couple off and and rest before the major if they've played out west. So a lot of it depends on the scheduling, because with the Valspar, which is here in Tampa, they had a very weak field last year because they were after TPC and everybody wanted to break before the Masters. And the field was really weak. But they said this year it's good because even though it's after TPC, there's a couple of weeks before the Masters, so people are going to warm up with it.
Yeah, isn't it usually, well, it used to be Houston before the Masters, but I don't know what happened over the last few years. I don't know, they've made a few changes here and about. But yeah, nobody wants that. But nobody usually, well, Heritage is always after the Masters, so that's just the way it is. But I can understand why nobody would want that week before the Masters venue. That's really tough. I can imagine.
Yeah, it is.
Is that the way you used to play, or is it depending on what major? Did you always want to play the week before a major, or no way, I'm staying away, I need to concentrate on that specific venue?
No, I like to play the week before. I would take off the 2 weeks before and kind of feel how I've worked on my game, want to see how it feels, and then go into it another one. Sometimes my second week was always my best week out.
Okay.
So I would think, okay, I would take a week off 2 weeks before, work on my game, and then see how it feels.
So if we looked at your lifetime winning history, we would see that most of the percentage of times that you won happened on the second straight week that you played.
Yeah. Okay. Correct. And I rarely happened on the fourth or fifth because I would play one more. Most people played 4. I played 5 because I wanted 2 weeks off. And then I'd go to the Keys for a week and break and then come back and work on my game. So I'd have a week of working hard. But also, if you look at my schedule, and a lot of it, I never did well coming from behind. I think I won every tournament leading the first day.
Wow.
Yeah. Once I got off to a good start, I knew.
Front runner.
Because my putting was my weakness in the early on, and I hit the ball really consistently. And so if I made my first 6-footer, like when my dad catched me, to be so nervous whether it was for a birdie or a par. If I made my first one, it was like, oh, she's going to have a good tournament. So, and once I got, most of them was wire to wire.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, are you playing right now?
I'm doing a few charity events just because I'll play in those just to kind of have some competition. I won't get really ready to start playing until May because we have a Pro-Am in June, and then I'll get started because I'll probably play 4 or 5. I'll play the LPGA Senior Championship, the Women's Senior Open, and the one I won with Laura Diaz last year in Boston at Cape Cod. So I'll probably play that, and I might play a couple more. I don't know. I'm pretty busy right now.
And health-wise?
Health-wise, I'm good. I mean, except for my injuries from pickleball every day. But other than that, no, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you here with us. That's for sure. Because now that we finally got you started, it's going to be very hard for me to let you go. So.
No, well, it's fun. It's always fun to talk, and I love all the stuff that you always look up. I like all the statistics.
Yeah, my statistics. Yeah, and like I said, that's what I do too. I'll actually look and find out whether or not a certain player. How does that, like Berger? It's interesting. I was looking at Berger's stats, and he had just missed the cut. And I don't usually like taking golfers or putting money on golfers when they're coming off a missed cut. Normally, that's not the way you do it. So I was kind of staying away, even though Berger, this was a horse for course for Berger. This was a good course. He likes this course.
Definitely. Yeah, he's won there.
Well, he was runner-up in his first. He lost that playoff to Harrington in his first try about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think he had another top
Oh, I
five.
thought he'd won it. Okay.
I'd have to see what was
I thought he'd
his.
won it in the
I
past,
have
but
it right
maybe
here.
not.
No, he hasn't. He has 2 top fives and a runner-up in 6 attempts.
Oh,
So
then you're right. He's a big time
yeah,
favorite.
so and he was second choice at 16-1 to win the event.
Who was your first?
It was Sung Jae Im, who had won in
Interesting.
2020. So Im won the event in 2020 and was 8th last year defending his title. So and Koepka was 20-1, which I was kind of surprised that Im was the favorite, even though Koepka hasn't been playing his best golf. But so I was like, well, maybe I'm not going to take Berger. But what I usually do now, again, I'm trying to find all different angles. So I go, all right, has he ever won after a missed cut? So I'm looking over his history. Now, the last time he won after a missed cut. And it's
Wow.
interesting too. I like to go with the way I like to make sure that my golfers are playing well, like they're getting better each week.
Yeah.
He's in a good situation, unless I mean the only other names that are on the board are and they're like 8 behind to begin their round are like Fleetwood and Koepka and Horschel, and even Neiman who won last week. But other than that, everybody else between Berger and those names I just mentioned are just guys who don't normally win on tour. So maybe a quiet weekend, but it's the Florida swing. So it's the perfect time for us to start talking golf. And next week, what's next week on the PGA Tour? So is next week Bay Hill?
Yeah. Arnie's tournament. That's a great golf course to warm up for TPC.
And then TPC, and you're going to be there live.
But then I get to be at the Valspar. I'm playing in the celebrity event on the Monday at Valspar in Tampa, so that'll be fun. I'm a member there, so I know the course well. So I'll play. You play with it's one celebrity and one pro, and then 3 other amateurs. So I'm the celebrity, and then I have a pro. We play that on Monday, and there's always some fun with all the football players in town. It's always a fun one, and the hockey players.
Oh, really?
So that's a fun one to play. And then I'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I play another pro-am on Wednesday for some of the sponsors at Valspar. And then I play the Monday after the tournament on the same pins as they play the event at the same, everything the same. So you can choose to play as far back as you want, like the pros, but at least you get to play the course the way they are.
And when is that? That's in 4 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Right
after TPC.
Right after TPC. Okay. Well, we'll be talking about your schedule every week. So next week it's Bay Hill. We'll see how everything goes this week at the Honda, and hopefully next week's main topic and story will be a little bit more on the lighter side.
Well, we can talk about what happened with Berger.
Yes, if he holds on and wins, yes, I'll try to bring those stats. I'll get those stats back and ready. So, and by the way, we'll normally be doing our shows before the events start, but like I said, we were already thinking next week, and then the story came out, so we decided let's just do this anyway because we're filming right now on a Friday afternoon. So, like I said, it's the afternoon time and second round at the Honda, but. When we talk next week, it'll be probably like a Tuesday kind of deal, and that'll give us an opportunity to also talk a little bit about the event before it even starts. So, which is the way you should do it.
Good.
But all right, Jan, looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Greg.
Talk to you next week.
Talk to you then. Bye.